What's going on, everybody? Cygnus Jason here. I'd like to start this video off with a small disclaimer. Actually, disclaimer sounds important. It's more of a mix of opinion and observation. If you spent time in the gaming community on any level, whether you're a casual player, a streamer, or some kind of championship league professional gamer, you have no doubt heard of anticipated games being cheaply likened to well-known titles within a similar genre. The worst descriptor among them, which plenty of gaming news outlets have used without restraint, is Souls-like. For the unaware, the term Souls-like is basically used to label a game as being closely similar to the highly acclaimed From Software series, Dark Souls. In essence, any game that forces you to actually try to win, or makes it equally easy and punishing for you to mess up and die due to the slightest error in the timing of a dodge or the ceaseless aggression of some of the enemies. When a game is hard, it's okay to call it hard. There's no reason to drag Dark Souls' name into the discussion every single time, and it annoys me every time I see it. Now, there are definitely times when a game is dead ass just like Dark Souls, and still manages to stand out and deliver a solid experience. Lords of the Fallen and The Surge come to mind. On today's breakdown, I'll be talking about another game that does the Dark Souls name justice like no other, Mortal Shell, an action RPG developed by Cold Symmetry and published by PlayStack London. If you've played any of the titles in the Souls series, the first 5 minutes of Mortal Shell will make you think From Software definitely had a hand in this. You don't know what you are, you don't know where you are, and you don't know why you're there, but you have a sword, so it's time to stab first and ask questions later. Your character, a nightmarishly pale humanoid that looks like what happens when you drink too much milk, has the ability to possess shells, bodies of warriors, kings, or thieves who possess their own signature weapons or special abilities. More on that later. The environments I've seen so far in Mortal Shell are exactly how you'd picture. Dank and damp swamps, echoing catacombs and burial sites, sprawling castles, and danger mostly around every corner. Traversal and navigation are simple enough. The areas are broad and winding, leaving it up to you to explore and see what's what. Looking for treasure, fighting off rabid hillbillies, you know, the usual. In your travels, you'll see and find some interesting things, but don't just look out for enemies. There are secret treasure spots you can break debris from in front of to access. There are treasure chests hidden behind enemy tents or tucked away in corners, and some of the hillbillies were kind enough to lay traps for you, so definitely look out for those. After wandering around for some time, you'll come across Sister Janessa. Wherever she stays almost functions as a hub of sorts.
There won't be any merriment around the bonfire here.
Here, you can harness instinct and see where other shells or weapons are located and use a workbench to upgrade your weapons. The Cester works just like a Shrine Maiden would. You can't level up per se, but you can use tar, the main currency of the game, and glimpses to unlock the memories of your shell. Wandering around and exhausting every hill, cave, and dead end will get you other shells, weapons, treasures, and items, but it's also the quickest way to come across some terrifying shit, so always stay on your guard. When you find shells, it's as simple as walking up and inhabiting them. When you find weapons, they'll be implanted in a statue next to a book. Recite the text and you'll be transported to a battlefield similar to the one in the start of the game. There, Hadern will be waiting to duel with you using the weapon you're trying to get. It's a cool touch, even if annoying at times. Overcome him, and the weapon will be available to extract from the statue. You have a handful of approaches to combat. One of the core tools of your arsenal is your Harden ability, which allows you to deflect a single attack before your body reverts back to normal. For most small or normal-sized enemies, this can deflect and stagger the enemy, but how fast the enemy continues their assault will vary between the enemies you face. If the enemy does stagger when it hits you during Harden, it should immediately present you with a clear picture on how to open them up for attacks or how to kill them more quickly, especially since Harden can be used mid-attack. As an added bonus, Harden can be used in and out of your shell, so mastering it is definitely worthwhile. Now, shells and weapons function similarly, with shells being a bit more involved. Once you find and inhabit a shell, it will be unknown. To make full use of the shell, you will need to go to Sister Janessa and use tar to learn the name of the shell. As mentioned before, you can use tar and glimpses at Sister Janessa to buy skills and upgrades for your shell, improving your capabilities like improvements to the Harden ability or additional moves like the boot. However, while your tar follows you from shell to shell, glimpses are shell specific and will only be available to upgrade the shell you found the glimpse on. With weapons you find, You'll need to also find quenching oil to upgrade the weapon's damage, and you'll need weapon enhancement items to unlock weapon abilities. For example, with the hallowed sword, the first weapon you find, you can insert a mechanical spike and a molten spike. Once you find either, insert it into the hallowed sword at a workbench to unlock a devastating attack, with the molten spike being twice as deadly. There are 2 different enhancement items for each weapon, so be sure to find them all. Weapon abilities require resolve, these pegs right here, and resolve is gained by, you guessed it, attacking enemies. For players who want to dispatch their enemies with a bit more skill, there's the Tarnished Seal. You'll find this after releasing the old prisoner from his shackle in the hub where you probably first found Sester Janessa. Using this item allows you to perform an empowered riposte, which you can follow with a deadly attack, an attack which also requires resolve. As with the riposte in Dark Souls, timing is crucial. After defeating the main bosses of the game, you will extract from them a special gland. Bring this gland to the old prisoner and he will infuse your Tarnished Seal with a powerful new effect for your riposte. The riposte is of course best used when you're somewhat familiar with your enemy's moveset, because if it fails, you're going to take a direct attack, and attacks kinda hurt. The Tarnished Seal's healing effects and more can be upgraded by using Tarnished Seal runes or offerings acquired from the corrupted Cesters you will find in your travels. Whenever your HP reaches 0, time slows down briefly, and your milky and fleshy body will be ejected from your currently inhabited shell. In your naked form, you still have your weapon ready to go, and a great deal of stamina with which to use it, but your health can definitely not survive another attack, and you can obviously no longer use whatever bonuses or special moves associated with your shell. When time slows down, you usually have enough of a chance to dodge roll back to your shell, so it's advised you do that. Throughout the areas of the game or in trade shops, you will find effigies which are in the shape of shells. Using one can immediately bring the specified shell to you to inhabit. If you die for real, you'll drop your tar right where it happened and be transported back to where you last saw Sester Janessa. One little side note, you can only use the effigy of shells you know the name of, and effigies are a one-time use. There are also similar items unique to weapons that serve the same function, but these have unlimited uses. One more side note that's definitely worth mentioning, shells have their own individual health and stamina bars, in that an armored shell will have more health than stamina and maybe 2 pegs of resolve, whereas a less armored shell will be more nimble with way more stamina, possibly more resolve, but way less health. If you take a lot of damage as Shell A, for example, and then use an effigy to call Shell B, if you call Shell A back to you before going back to see Janessa, that shell will still be as damaged as you left it. Keep this in mind when switching back and forth. Another way to get yourself patched up is, of course, items. Most consumables or tools you come across in Mortal Shell will have a familiarity gauge. Each time you use an item, your familiarity increases by 1 for that item. When you find a new item or consumable, you may not know its effects until you eat it or use it. You'll have to make a judgment call on whether it restores health or outright poisons you. When the familiarity gauge of an item reaches its maximum, the item may work better or enable improved effects. A good example is the loot. At familiarity 1, you can't play to save your life. At maximum familiarity, you're as talented as a bard, just minus the singing voice. The flow of controls in Mortal Shell may seem slow at first, since the starting shell is a bit sluggish and your only weapon is a greatsword. Movements look and feel fluid when going between light attacks, heavy attacks, ripostes, and special moves. Something to keep in mind, dodging has an invulnerability window and dodge animations differ between all shells. Familiarizing yourself with everything that your current shell and weapon can do, along with utilizing your harden and riposte abilities, are the key elements of mastering combat, if you haven't noticed that already. And I know it won't be long before someone out there does a naked run through the game where they don't use any shells and only the starting weapon, since there is a special in-game shrine where you can initiate that. You can even probably beat the training boss at the start of the game with enough patience, but I was eager to get into my shell and to get the game started. Let me tell you, taking down bosses in Mortal Shell will always make you sit back and breathe a hefty sigh of relief for a job well done, no matter if you died 1 time or 100 times. At this point in time, I'm about 10 hours in, but I've only beaten 1 major boss, and with all the exploration to do and deaths to suffer, I roughly guesstimate that Mortal Shell will probably run you about 25 to 30 hours. It's also probable that DLC will come to this game along with other additions to flesh out the world and give us more to do. From what I've played and what other reviewers have been saying, I can say with confidence that if you enjoyed Dark Souls as much as I did, you will not be disappointed by this game whatsoever, especially with a $30 price tag. If you're tired of hearing me talking and want to get into your shell and start your adventure, Mortal Shell is available now on the Epic Game Store as well as PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, with an eventual arrival on Steam that'll probably happen in a year or so. That about does it for the Mortal Shell breakdown. I'm off to give more enemies the boot and get impaled by creatures I have absolutely no business fighting. This has been Cygnus Jason, and I will catch you all on the game side. See you next time.